Another type of chart is tables. To select a table, we go to Add a Chart and select the first table, dragging it onto the report. What can tables help us achieve? Tables allow us to combine multiple dimensions and metrics within the same chart. If we access the chart settings, in the Dimensions section, it is enabled for us to add more than one. The same applies to metrics. I will change the default data that the table brought us. First, I will change this dimension. I want to see the country directly. I know that the country dimension can also be visualized on a map, but we will see that later. I will also add an additional dimension, which will be page title. I'll search for this dimension and select it. And we notice something particular. Did you notice what happened? What happens if we only keep the country? I will remove page title and keep only the country. By doing this, the amount of information decreased, and it's not that the amount of data or the total amount of data has decreased. What happens here is that by adding more dimensions, I get a greater disaggregation of the information. I will add the page title dimension again, and let's observe the changes. What happened when we did this process? It disaggregated the information by each of the countries and shows me the page titles and the views each specific page received. We observe that this table is being sorted by the number of views. However, I can sort it differently and ask it to show me the order first by country, not by the number of views. I go to my chart settings. Look, there is a section called Sort that indicates it is currently sorting by views. I don't want it sorted by views. I want it sorted by the country dimension. By doing this process, the information will be displayed in alphabetical order, according to the country name. I can change this order, either descending or ascending, in the same section, depending on the need required. We observe something particular. Some countries are not identified, and they are marked as not set. This is totally normal. Not all countries from which the views come can be identified due to issues related to cookies, privacy, and other factors that prevent the direct identification of the country. What else can I do with tables? In addition to deciding the order in which I want the information to be displayed, we can choose the amount of information we need to visualize in our table. For this, I go to the chart settings, and in the Number of Rows section, I can choose how many rows to show in my table, whether by pages, assigning a certain number of rows to each page, or through a top N, where I can select the number of rows I want to see, either a number less than the total or the complete total. By selecting this option and scrolling within the table, I can see the different results for the number of rows selected previously. In our table, we can also use a very useful option, adding a summary row. This will allow our table to total the metrics it contains. At the beginning of the class, I mentioned that a table is useful for adding multiple dimensions and metrics. So let's do that. First, I will remove the page title dimension so that my table does not have too much crossed information. I will also add the sessions metric. Additionally, the active users metric. And the new users. Now I have everything in a single table. I don't want it sorted by country. I want to see the order by views. We already know how to do that. I go to the Settings part, Sort, and change the country dimension to the views metric. Now I will have the order of views from lowest to highest. Let's see other variations we can have in table charts, but first, let's increase the size of our page a bit. For this, I will right-click on an empty part of the report, select Current Page Settings, then go to Style, and in Height, I will assign a size of at least 10,000 pixels. Since on this page, we will develop the different types of charts corresponding to the learning of this course. Once this action is completed, we first go to Add a Chart and select the second option, Table with Bars, dragging it into our report. Let's make sure it has the country dimension and the views metric. What is this variation useful for? It allows us to display the information in a simpler way. We can visually identify which category has the largest data. Taking the case of the country, we can quickly know which country has the most views just by the size of the bar. This variation is useful when we have more associated metrics. I will add the sessions and bounce rate metrics to my chart. As you can see, it is very visually convenient, since I don't have to identify the number itself. With the size of the bar, I can easily tell which one is superior in each metric. Why is this important? Because when applying an order to the chart, we will realize that we can only sort by one metric. We cannot sort by all of them. So if I change the order, for example, from bounce rate, we will lose the top that was previously sorted by views. And this is where it starts to make sense to have this type of chart. To find the country with the most views, I can do it more easily, or if I wanted to see the correspondence between bounce rate and views for a particular country. Otherwise, I would have had to make the comparison number by number. There's another type of table that also allows us to have a certain order of colors, or a heat map. For this, we will duplicate our table. First, we select it, go to the top section with the three dots, select More, and then Duplicate. We move our table to organize it better, and with the table selected, we go to the Chart Settings section. In the top part labeled Chart, we expand the list and select the option called Table with Heat Map. And there you go. We have changed the chart type directly from this option. Here I want to give you a warning. Be careful, as some charts are compatible while others are not. In the case of tables, we saw that there was no problem, but it can happen with other types of charts that by changing them directly from here, we might lose information. In this variation, we will no longer have a bar, but a color map, where the intensity of the color shows us what the highest result is and what the highest data we have within each of our metrics.